Part 1, The Unmarked Graveyard. The sign was barely visible behind the veil of creeping vines. Mercy Hills, population 213. Below that, someone had spray-painted in crimson. We don't stay dead here. Tasha blinked through the rain-streaked windshield of her aging sedan and sighed. The engine sputtered its last protest as she parked near the edge of the overgrown road. There was no turning back now. She checked her phone again, still no service. The last text from her cousin, Kira, was from 3 days ago. You need to come now. They're not letting me leave. It's real, Tasha. The bodies are whispering at night. That was the last thing she'd heard. And now Kira was missing. The town looked like something frozen in time, wide gravel streets, peeling white church steeples, and houses with blinds always drawn. Everyone she passed stared just a second too long, like they knew she didn't belong. One man, standing outside the post office, smiled without lips. His teeth were dark, and his eyes reflected nothing. Tasha drove slowly past him, trying not to shiver. She reached the main square, a sunken loop of buildings like a decaying horseshoe. The town's only inn sat at the center, the hollow hearth. Its sign swung lazily in the wind, creaking like something alive. She pushed open the door. A bell jingled above her. The woman at the desk looked up. Thin. Pale. Old beyond her years. Her name tag read Margot. You made it, she said without asking her name. Tasha hesitated. I'm looking for my cousin, Kira Fields. She stayed here. Room 6. Is she still? No. Left early yesterday morning, Margot lied. Poorly. Tasha narrowed her eyes. Did she leave a note? Anything? Margot slid a rusted room key across the counter. Check for yourself. But don't stay out after sundown. Why? The woman smiled again, not cruelly, but sadly. Because the ground gets hungry. Room 6. The room smelled like cedar and something faintly chemical, like bleach trying to mask rot. The bed was unmade. The window had been shattered and replaced hastily with cardboard and tape. On the nightstand, Kira's journal. Its leather cover was soaked on the corners, the ink smudged. Tasha flipped through the entries. They say the cemetery is full, but I've seen them bury more. I followed them. The graves are shallow. And there's something moving beneath. Last night, someone knocked. Not on the door. From under the bed. I looked. Nothing was there. But the wood was wet. Tasha's breath caught. The last entry, dated the night before she vanished, simply read. They told me it's my turn to feed it. Knock. Knock. Tasha froze. 2 soft knocks, not at the door, beneath the floorboards. She knelt down, heart thudding, and pressed her ear to the wooden floor. At first, silence. Then, scraping. Wet. Slow. Like something with skin too loose crawling underneath her. 3:19 a.m., sound of closet opening. 3:20 a.m., whisper so faint I couldn't decipher it. 3:21 a.m., my voice. Please, stop. I don't remember saying that. The room above. I finally decided to go up. I knocked on every door. No one answered. The 3rd floor was mostly vacant, and the few tenants I did meet either didn't speak English or didn't want to talk. But then I found a staircase hidden behind the laundry room door. It wasn't on the blueprint. Rickety wooden steps. Smelled like old newspaper and dead rats. I climbed it. There was a 4th floor. A single apartment. No number. Just a door with an iron handle. I knocked. No response. I touched the handle. It was warm. Inside the 4th floor apartment. It was unlocked. Dark. Silent. Smelled like chalk and decaying flowers. The furniture was ancient. Covered in sheets, except, some of the sheets were breathing. Rising and falling, like slow lungs. In the center of the living room was a chair facing the wall. A chair I had heard every night. Behind it, a long mirror leaned against the wall, its glass covered in fingerprints. Smudges. Handprints pressed from the inside. Then the chair turned. There was nothing in it. But I heard a whisper behind me. Don't look too long. It learns from you. I ran. The silence spreads. After that night, my world changed. Phones don't work. My texts never go through. Neighbors forget me mid-conversation. I ordered food once. When the delivery guy came to the building, he looked confused and asked, "Is this the Whitmore building?" I nodded. He shook his head. "That place burned down 2 years ago, man. I don't think I should be here." I looked at the receipt. He'd printed it out, same address, but the zip code was wrong. Not off by 1 digit, but a full set from a different state. I took the food anyway. He didn't come back down. The man behind the silence. I saw him again. Not in the hallway. In the mirror. When I brushed my teeth one morning, his head rose slowly behind me in the reflection. No face. Just a void. A perfect human-shaped absence. And he whispered, "Your silence is feeding me." Then he smiled, not with a mouth, but with the shifting of the void. A grin made of nothing at all. I tried to leave. I packed a bag. Keys. Wallet. Nothing else. I got to the ground floor. Every step felt heavier. Like the air was thickening, turning syrupy. The front door. It opened to another hallway. Same peeling paint. Same carpet. Just, longer. I ran through it. Turned a corner. Found my apartment door again. Same number. Same rug. Only the nameplate had changed. It now read, Mr. Silence. Where I left off. The door that should have led me outside instead looped me back to my own apartment. Mr. Silence. And somehow, I knew he was inside. The scratching begins. It started with scratching from inside the walls. Not rats. Not pipes. Fingernails. Slow. Deliberate. Right behind the drywall near my bed. Always at 3:15 a.m. I hit the wall once. The scratching paused. Then came a knock, from inside the wall. Knock. 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 Can I come out? The voice was mine. Room 3E. I stopped sleeping. Days blurred. Lights flickered. Shadows lengthened. I noticed something odd in the building's directory. There was no apartment 3E. The floors went A, B, C, D, and then skipped. But at the end of the hallway now stood a new door. Painted black. Rusty handle. Apartment 3E. I shouldn't have, but I opened it. Inside 3E. No furniture. Just mirrors. Floor to ceiling, every wall. All perfectly polished. Each mirror showed a slightly different version of me. One had no eyes. One was smiling too wide. One bled from the nose, constantly. And one just watched. Without blinking. But in the center of the room stood another me, flesh and blood, wearing my clothes, staring directly at me. "You came late," he said. "He's already here." Then he raised his hand, mirror black, reflective like oil, and pointed behind me. I turned around. There was nothing. When I looked back, the room was empty. Except my own reflection no longer followed my movements. The echo room. That night, I tried leaving again. This time, the elevator worked. I rode it down to the basement, hoping for a back door, fire escape, anything. But the doors didn't open. Instead, the elevator kept going down. Past B1, B2, B9, B15. Until the screen went black. When the doors opened, I was in a room of pure concrete, with a single light bulb flickering above. The echo room. That's what the voice whispered. I stepped out. The walls repeated every sound, except they twisted them, replaying them seconds later but slightly wrong. My breathing echoed back as panting. My footsteps returned as crawling. Then I said, "Hello." The echo returned in Mr. Silence's voice. "You called me." The thing with the mouths. It was in the far corner. Hunched. Pale. Covered in mouths, tiny lips, puckering and whispering constantly. It rose to its feet and mimicked my face, like clay reshaping itself. "We all come here," it said. "We all become him." I tried to run. The elevator was gone. The door, gone. Only a black hallway remained, humming with static. So I walked into it. The Hall of Names. The hallway twisted like intestines. The wallpaper changed the deeper I went. First it showed photos of me, childhood, college, old ID cards. Then photos of me I'd never taken, asleep in bed, sitting at my desk, standing at the mirror with someone else behind me. Then names. Dozens. Hundreds. All scratched into the walls with fingernails. All were crossed out. Except one. M. Silence. And underneath it. Yours. Etched fresh. The return. Eventually, the hallway dumped me back into my apartment. But it wasn't mine. The furniture was older. Faded. Photos on the walls showed a man with my face, only older by decades. In every frame, he was alone. Eyes vacant. Staring directly into the lens. I walked into the bedroom. He was lying in my bed. Alive. Breathing. Staring at the ceiling. Then his lips moved. "You're the last echo." He stopped breathing. The silence knocks. Since then, I hear knocking. Not just at night. Everywhere. In the mirror when I shave. Under my bed. Inside my closet. Sometimes inside my chest, like a second heartbeat. Knock. 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 He's not trying to come in anymore. He's trying to come out. Final entry. I tried burning the apartment. It didn't work. The flames turned black. Silent. And when I ran into the hallway, all the doors were gone. Every one vanished. Only one remained. At the very end. Painted black. Labeled simply. You. It opened before I touched it. Inside was a chair facing a wall, a mirror, and a shadow sitting in my place. He turned and smiled. And whispered. "You were always me." The man behind the silence. Part 3, The Feeding Room. 20,000 characters. Where we left off. The door marked, "You," had opened on its own. Inside sat a shadow in my place. And then it whispered. "You were always me." The awakening. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up in the chair. The mirror was gone. So was the door. All that remained was a single metal hatch on the floor, bolted shut with symbols I couldn't read, shapes that twisted and moved on their own when I stared too long. I stood up. My footsteps echoed again, but this time, they were ahead of me. Moving. Running. Then stopping. Then I heard breathing. My own. Right behind me. I turned, nothing. I opened the hatch. Down below. A steel ladder led into darkness. I descended without thinking. The walls were wet, breathing. The deeper I went, the hotter it got. Not hellish, but damp, like lungs. The air smelled like salt and copper. At the bottom, I stood in a hallway made of flesh. Pulsing. Alive. There were doors in the walls, some barely big enough for a hand. Others as tall as ceilings. Every door was labeled. Some read. Dreams. Failures. First memories. Forgotten birthdays. Apologies never spoken. But at the end of the corridor, one door stood slightly open. It read. Feeding room. Inside the feeding room. It was pitch black. Then, a click. A faint bulb swung to life above a dinner table. Wooden. Old. Stained red. Around the table sat dozens of versions of me. Some were missing eyes. Some were bones wrapped in skin. One was crying. One was whispering to itself. And one, the first me, the one from the mirror, sat at the head of the table. He stood when I entered. You made it, he said. Time to feed. He gestured toward the table. In front of each version of me was a plate. On every plate, something I'd forgotten. A toy I lost at 5. The key to a home I don't remember living in. A letter I never mailed. And a mouth carved into the plate itself, whispering. You owe us. Feed him. The host arrives. The room grew colder. Then we heard it, the dragging. Wet flesh on concrete. Chains. The light dimmed. From the dark corner of the room, he crawled out. Mr. Silence. Only now, I saw him fully. His face was a patchwork of all our expressions. His fingers were broken microphones, twitching. His chest had a speaker embedded in it, softly echoing our worst memories. And his mouth never moved. Not once. The host pointed at me. His turn, my mirror self said. Mr. Silence opened his chest cavity. Inside was a chair. A throne made of mirrors. My name etched across it. They all looked at me. Sit. You made him. You feed him. You become him. The mirror throne. I couldn't resist. My legs moved without permission. I walked to the host. Stepped inside his open chest. Sat on the throne. Everything went silent. Every voice in the room, gone. The air sucked out. The lights flickered and then imploded, plunging us into a silence so deep, it hurt. Then. Sound returned, but wrong. I heard the laughter of every person who ever hurt me. The final words of loved ones I'd lost. Arguments. Fights. Screams I'd buried. And beneath it all, a hum. Not from outside. From inside me. The throne was feeding. What I saw in the throne. Time collapsed. I saw the birth of Mr. Silence, a boy locked in a basement by his parents, told that if he screamed, the thing in the walls would get him. He never spoke again. He became it. I saw 1,000 people before me, each wearing the throne, each turning into a different version. One grew speakers from their spine. One bled ink from the mouth. One just floated in space, whispering secrets to unborn children. And now, it was my turn. My skin began to twist. Flesh hardening. Thoughts melting. Then, a voice in my head. This can end, if you find the door. The last door. I ripped myself from the throne, flesh burning. The feeding room screamed in protest, the clones, the host, all of it glitching, flickering, trying to stop me. I ran. The hallway shifted. Memories tried to trap me, faces of dead friends, places I loved, smells of old lives. But I kept going. Until I saw it. A door. White. Simple. It had no name. Only a question. Do you still want to be you? The answer. I hesitated. Everything behind me groaned. The air rippled like water. Then I said. Yes. The door opened. Home, or not. I woke up in my apartment. Daylight. Birds. The street below. Everything was back to normal. I checked the hallway, no black door. No apartment 3E. No Mr. Silence. I laughed. Until I looked in the mirror. And saw it. Just for a second. Behind my reflection. A shadow. Smiling. Final words, part 3. They say trauma echoes. But no one tells you what happens when you listen to it for too long. When you feed it. When you become it. The ones who watch. Reflection isn't always yours. Prologue, mirror, mirror. In every home, in every room, in every hotel and hallway, there's a mirror. We glance at them. Check ourselves. Move on. But what if they weren't reflecting you? What if they were watching you? What if every time you passed one by, you left something behind? 1. The empty frame. After the feeding room, I thought I was free. I moved. Burned old clothes. Bought a new phone. I deleted every app that reminded me of the past. No more weird buildings. No Mr. Silence. Just peace. Until I unpacked the last box. Wrapped in newspaper was a mirror. I don't remember owning it. Simple wooden frame. Faint scratches across the glass. As soon as I held it, I heard it, whispers. Soft. Almost like breathing. I put it on the wall anyway. That night, I dreamt of myself, standing on the other side of the mirror, screaming, but muted. 2. The girl in apartment 7A. Her name was Lena. She moved in across the hall 2 weeks after me. Always wore sunglasses. Even indoors. One night, we crossed paths in the hallway. You got one too? She asked. I stared. One what? She pointed behind me. My front door was wide open. The mirror inside my living room was glowing faintly. You need to cover it, she whispered. Before it learns your name. She shut her door before I could ask more. 3. Things you don't catch the first time. I watched the mirror that night. Recorded it. Hours passed, nothing. Then, at 3:11 a.m., the camera glitched. For 1 second, maybe less, the reflection didn't match the room. My reflection was gone. Instead, a dark figure stood there. Back turned. Breathing hard. It turned its head slightly, just enough to show a sliver of a smile. Then the video cut to static. When I rewound it, the glitch wasn't there anymore. 4. Lena's rules. I knocked on Lena's door the next morning. She didn't open it all the way. Just enough to slide a paper into my hand. Rules for dealing with them. Don't ask how I know. 1. Never leave mirrors uncovered at night. 2. Don't look directly into your reflection after 3 a.m. 3. If you see movement behind your reflection, do not turn around. 4. If the reflection waves first, it's already too late. 5. If you hear your name whispered and no one is there, leave the building immediately. 6. Never break the mirror. It doesn't break the bond, it releases them. At the bottom was a drawing. A stick figure staring into a mirror. Behind it, a dozen more, all identical, slowly inching forward. 5. The whispers know my name. The next night, I covered the mirror with a thick black sheet. But I still heard it. Come closer. We remember. We've seen everything. I moved the sheet. Just a little. My reflection wasn't there. Instead, a staircase appeared in the mirror. Stone. Old. Winding downward into the dark. I blinked. Gone. Just me again. Except. I was smiling. But I wasn't. 6. Lena disappears. 3 days later, Lena was gone. I noticed her door cracked open. No signs of struggle. Her lights were still on. Food in the kitchen, warm. But her mirror, shattered. The cracks formed a perfect spiral. At the center, one word scratched deep into the glass. Below. The landlord said no one had rented 7A in over 6 months. He looked confused when I showed him Lena's texts. Are you sure it wasn't just someone squatting? That unit's been sealed for asbestos. No one's supposed to be in there. 7. Following the reflection. That night, I tested something. I set up 2 mirrors across from each other. Sat between them. At exactly 3 a.m., I looked into the endless reflection tunnel. Nothing. Then, at 3:04. I blinked. And I wasn't the one who blinked back. It was slower. Deliberate. Intentional. Then a third figure appeared in the tunnel. Distant. Walking forward. 1 step. Then another. Each blink, it got closer. By 3:06, it was 1 step behind me. I turned. Nothing. When I looked back, all reflections were gone. Except for one. It was me. Still sitting. But smiling. And not moving. 8. The Mirror Hotel. I left the apartment. Checked into a hotel 3 towns over. No mirrors. At the. You'll want room 403. It's safer. Why? I asked. He paused, glanced at the wall behind me, then whispered. It's the only one they haven't figured out how to get into, yet. Room 403 was simple. Bare. The only reflective surface was the TV screen. I fell asleep quickly. At 2:44 a.m., the screen turned on. My face. Just my face. But no camera was on. I blinked. It didn't. 9. When they break through. I woke to glass crunching underfoot. The TV had shattered. But only from the inside. The cracks formed a doorway. Through it, I saw my apartment. Room 3C. Same angle, same mirror. My double stood there, staring into the hotel room. He raised his hand and waved. The wave from Lena's rules. It was too late. 10. Final thoughts before the change. I'm back in my apartment now. The mirror is no longer covered. In fact, it doesn't even reflect anything anymore. It just shows the inside of the mirror world, endless hallways, stairs, and watchers. They all wear my face. Different eras. Different ages. One is still a child. One is so old, he barely moves. One wears sunglasses. Tomorrow, I'll walk through. They've called me long enough. And someone has to take over watching you. The basement that wasn't there yesterday. She didn't sleep that night. Every time Samantha closed her eyes, she saw the trapdoor again, except it wasn't closed anymore in her mind. It gaped open, pitch black, and something inside it moved, slowly, like it was dragging broken limbs through thick soil. She lay in bed, trying to convince herself it was just a dream, a hallucination, a trick of the light or maybe stress. But deep down, she knew better. By morning, she had resolved to prove herself wrong. She entered the kitchen with cautious footsteps, carrying her phone as a flashlight. The house was eerily silent. Even the birds outside seemed to be avoiding the place. The trapdoor was still there. She knelt by it again and studied the wood. Old, but solid. The metal ring in the center was cold to the touch, rust flaking off as she lifted it slowly. The wood groaned as if protesting the movement. Dust puffed out around the edges, followed by something more alarming: heat. Damp, sulfuric heat, like something exhaling from below. Samantha hesitated. Then she pulled. The door creaked open, revealing nothing but a square hole in the floor that led into utter darkness. She turned on her phone flashlight and pointed it inside. The beam barely touched anything, only stone walls lined with a thin mossy sheen, and a stairwell that spiraled down far deeper than it had any right to go. There should be no basement, and certainly not one that descended deeper than the house itself. Samantha looked over her shoulder, half expecting to see someone there. But the kitchen was empty. Still, she could feel it, the pressure of something watching her decision. She ran blind through the dark, the fire poker clanging against the stone walls, breath coming in frantic gasps. Ahead, a light. A door. She slammed through it. Into the kitchen. It was daytime again. The trapdoor was gone. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing, drenched in sweat, knees scraped and arms trembling. Her phone blinked. One notification. A photo. She opened it. It was a picture of her, asleep. Taken from the foot of her bed. There was no caption. But in the corner of the image, nearly out of frame, stood the figure with her grandmother's face, smiling. The basement that wasn't there yesterday, Part 2, continued. The police didn't believe her. Of course they didn't. She had called them trembling, barely able to speak, babbling about trapdoors, voices, and photos that shouldn't exist. 2 officers came, wandered her house politely, exchanged looks when they thought she wasn't watching. They asked if she'd taken anything, drugs, alcohol. She said no. They noted her shaken state, then offered a number for a counselor. And when they left, she could feel it again. The house watching her. The trapdoor didn't come back. Not for days. But the photo stayed. It remained in her gallery, time-stamped at 3:17 a.m. the night she saw the stairwell. No record of it being sent or received. No metadata. She tried deleting it. Her phone froze. When it restarted, the photo was still there. Worse, now it was her lock screen. That night, she slept with every light in the house on. But at 3:17 a.m., the power cut out. A soft humming drifted through the dark. No source. No beginning. A slow, swaying tune. She didn't sleep again. The next day, Samantha drove. No destination. Just out. Away. Her house sat in the rearview mirror, still, pale under the overcast sky, like it didn't exist before she moved in and might vanish if she looked away long enough. She didn't return until well after dark. When she opened the door, something was off. The kitchen smelled wrong. Like damp earth. Rotting cloth. Mildew. And then she saw them, footprints. Not hers. Trailing across the tiles. Long, narrow feet, barefoot, soaked, leaving smeared wet marks. They led from the center of the kitchen to her bedroom. Samantha stood frozen. Then she heard it, the soft creak of her bed's shifting weight. She grabbed a knife and crept forward, breath held tight in her chest. She pushed the bedroom door open. No one. But the bed, the sheets had moved. Pillows scattered. And there, on the pillow, was her ragdoll. Clean. Perfect. Like it hadn't spent 15 years forgotten in an attic. Its button eyes stared up at her. She picked it up, and from beneath it, another photo. It was her. Standing in the kitchen. Taken from behind. Today. While she was gone. Her phone buzzed. A message from a blocked number. You look just like her. Samantha stopped sleeping. Days blurred. She kept every light on. Kept every mirror covered. She heard footsteps in the hall at night. Things whispered under the floor. Something scratched from inside the walls. The humming grew louder. She stopped eating. Couldn't keep food down. Her fridge began to rot, even sealed containers spoiled overnight. The smell in the house thickened, layered, mold, sour sweat, burnt hair. And then the trapdoor came back. Just appeared again one night, right where it had been before. No sound. No warning. She found it by accident, stepping on the wood as it groaned beneath her foot. This time, it was open. Samantha didn't look inside. She grabbed a hammer. Nails. Anything she could find. She boarded it shut. She reinforced it with chairs, her fridge, her table. And that night, she dreamed. In the dream, she was in her kitchen, but not hers. The walls were wrong. Too tall. The windows were bricked up. The light was gray, seeping, as though filtered through water. In the center of the room sat the rocking chair. And in it, the thing with her grandmother's face. But this time, it was peeling. The skin sagged. One eye hung loosely. Underneath was something black, oily, shifting like a nest of worms. It spoke in that same warm voice. You can't close what was always open, sweetie. Then it stood. We were waiting for you to remember. It raised a hand, long fingers tipped in broken nails, and pointed at the floor. The trapdoor burst open. Firelight spilled out, along with screams, human screams, in hundreds of voices. The doll rose from the floor. It climbed her leg. And bit her. Samantha woke up screaming, her leg numb. There was a bite mark. Deep. Fresh. The sheets soaked in blood. She went to a hotel. Packed only what she needed. Didn't even lock the door. She just drove and didn't stop until she was 40 miles out. The nightmares followed. At 3:17 a.m. sharp, every night. She stopped staying in one place. Airbnb. Motel. Friend's couch. It didn't matter. The photos kept coming. Her phone changed on its own. Locks would unclick. Lights would flicker. The doll would appear, waiting on her nightstand. She contacted a priest. Then a paranormal team. Then a medium. They all came. None returned twice. The medium screamed halfway through the reading and fled the house barefoot. She never answered Samantha's calls again. The priest's crucifix shattered. The paranormal team. All 3 members vanished for 2 days. When they came back, they refused to speak. One of them had torn his own eyes out. Then came the letter. No envelope. Placed on her pillow in perfect script. It read. Come home. We're tired of waiting. That night, she returned. The house welcomed her. Literally. The door opened as she arrived, swinging wide with a creak like a whisper. The lights inside turned on. The smell was gone. Everything was clean. Too clean. Like it had never been lived in at all. The kitchen table was set, her grandmother's china, candles lit, steam rising from untouched bowls. In the center sat the rocking chair. It moved slowly. Empty. And beside it, the trapdoor. Wide open. Waiting. The Hollow Echoes, Part 10, The Collector's Room. I don't remember falling asleep that night. The events had blurred into each other, the whispers, the eyes and the vents, the thing that had called my name in my dead mother's voice. But when I awoke, sunlight filtered through the cracked window panes, casting long yellow beams across the dust-covered floor. And silence. Real, honest silence. No footsteps in the ceiling. No whispers in the closet. Just peace. I sat up, slowly, half expecting the illusion to shatter. But everything was still. Until I heard the door. Not knocking. Not banging. Just creaking. Softly. The door to the hallway was opening. On its own. A chill slid up my spine. I grabbed the flashlight and the small hunting knife I'd kept near the mattress. The hallway was dim, lit only by the weak morning light pushing in from the broken windows along the side. And at the end of that hallway was a new door. One that hadn't been there before. It was tall. Too tall for the house's dimensions. Made of some old wood, riddled with deep black gouges like claw marks. A crude sign was nailed into the center. It looked hand-carved. The collector's room. I should have turned around. I should have left and never looked back. But something drew me forward. The door opened before I touched it, yawning wide like a mouth accepting fate. Inside was nothing like the rest of the house. It was vast. The kind of vast that shouldn't have fit inside the structure. It stretched into darkness, and along the blackened walls were thousands of glass cases. Each one lit by its own dim bulb. Each containing something, someone. I walked slowly past the first row. A woman, eyes wide with terror, frozen mid-scream. A boy, clutching a teddy bear, face twisted in confusion. An old man, slumped over, a look of sadness frozen forever. All preserved in amber-like glass. Their eyes still moved. Still watched. Still followed me. I began to understand what the collector meant. This was his gallery. Souls, perhaps. Victims. People who, like me, had entered this place thinking they could leave. I reached a new case. This one was still empty. But it was labeled. Reserved, subject, you. Status, pending completion. I stumbled back, slamming into something behind me, someone. A hand gripped my shoulder. "Don't worry," said a voice. Raspy. Cold. "We still have time to perfect your fear." I turned. No face. Just a tall figure in a coat made of stitched leather and hair, human hair, with a mask of carved bone and eyes like wet pearls. It smiled with cracked teeth behind the mask. I bolted, running as fast as I could out the way I came. The hallway kept changing. Bending. Tilting. Doors turned into mirrors, and floors into crawling skin. I screamed. And I screamed louder when I reached the bedroom and saw the wall. The one I'd been sleeping beside. There was a new crack in the plaster. And from it, a single eye. Blazing red. Watching. Smiling.